Hello, 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 everybody. It's so good to see you all today. This is your Stepping Up and Stepping Out series that airs every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And guys, guess what? This series has been designed just for you to encourage you, to inspire you, and to empower its listeners to do what? Step up and step out of your comfort zone. And guys, this week we have a guest with us, and her name is Miss Irene Guru. And I want you all to give a shout out to her. I'm going to bring her to the screen in a few minutes. But she's a PhD, and has been an epidemiologist for over the last 20 years. And I would just like to give you a little bit of information about her before we bring her to the screen. So she's been married. She's a boy mom of two boys, ages 18 to 20. Irene is from Kenya, and now she lives in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And she caught the vision of wanting to be an entrepreneur. She caught the entrepreneur bug, and she wants to learn as much as she can about how to leverage live video and to be able to work her way in the space of doing online live videos for her future business. And through her interactions with several online communities, she has herself discovered that she loves working with women. And she will be launching her coaching program for other immigrant women with PhDs in the STEM field. And in this program, she will help these women build their confidence to pursue their God-sized dream. And so I want you all to put your hands together, and I'm getting ready to bring Irene to the screen right now. Hello, Irene. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you decided to come on the program with me today. And we're going to just have a good old time and just talk about a few things and, and just express how you feel about certain things as far as your business is concerned, your launch, coaching. We're just going to talk about a few things today. How about that?
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's such an honor to be interviewed by you.
Yes. So Irene, what caused you to step out of your comfort zone to start doing live video?
It all started out actually where I remember how nervous I am when I get on stage to sing or even talk. And I realized that it was a little bit trickier to be online because when I'm usually talking, we seeing each other face to face, you can see people's faces, you feed off the energy. It was a little bit different on online, the online space. So I knew that if I truly wanted to find my voice, that's actually one of the things I needed to start to do. And so that's how I got started.
Okay. Very good. That's because look, the same thing for me, because I never thought that I would be doing live video. That was not in my radar at all. So, I can attest with what you're saying there. So when it comes to doing live video, what role does your time management play in that? How are you able to manage your life and with the live videos? What are some things that you do to manage that?
One of the things, actually, I never realized that I am by nature driven to not like go with schedules. I kind of like to do stuff on the spur of the moment. But I realized when I lived that way, what was happening was that I was constantly feeling overwhelmed. So this is what I did. I actually did a calendar audit just to see where I was spending my time. And when I looked at it closely, I realized I had a lot down. So literally what I've done, I have a calendar that's color coded from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, because if I just go with what I want to do, I could just be scrolling the phone, looking at Pinterest and not doing what I'm supposed to do. And that's really helped me to stay more focused and stay accountable to myself.
And I had to do the same thing. I had to do a calendar. I had to do a to-do list. I had to do a whole lot of stuff. So I can attest to that. because we do have to be more organized, especially with us having families, we have children, we have ministry to look at, our jobs, our business, and even our self-care, because we have to make sure we take care of ourselves. And so it is very important that we have some type of way that we are keeping up with all the various things that we're responsible for doing. So,
Val, I'm glad you mentioned self-care, because it's amazing. That's actually the area which I find myself least likely to put. I take care of my husband, I took care of my sons. When it comes to myself, I even forget that I'm a person myself. I even forgot like I exist. It's like I'm turning around, doing things for other people. When it comes time to me, I even forget to put in the calendar. So the calendar has been really helpful for me to carve out time for me time.
Right. Because a lot of times we do everything for everybody else, and we do forget to think about ourselves as an individual and try to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves as well. And that's very important mentally, really. So that all the other things that we're doing, we're able to clearly be able to do those things and do them in an excellent way. So that's really, really, really important.
If I may add one more thing, is that also with that thing about the schedule, I know I grew up like, it's almost like whenever I have downtime, I feel like this thing in my head tells me I'm being lazy. And not realizing as we get older, we actually don't put playtime. Look at how when our kids are younger, they have like breaks to take naps, have breaks. And as we get older and older, the idea of taking a nap, you feel guilty. You feel like you should be working all the time.
Right.
And so that's like so important to just have time when you do absolutely nothing. And when you think you're doing nothing, your brain is solving problems. You're actually solving problems you don't even realize you're solving. So
Absolutely.
It's really incredible to have that calendar.
Yes. And even with me, like I said, I had to start writing a to-do list. And I have a written out calendar. I have a calendar on my phone. Then I have a to-do list, because especially if somebody asked me something, because I was in the habit of always somebody asking me to do something, and I would automatically say, yeah. And then I look at my calendar and I would have to call them back and say, I'm not going to be able to do that. I had something else. So I try to make sure I don't answer anybody as far as me committing to doing something without looking at my calendar, because, we can get ourselves in trouble like that. So, so we want to stay balanced with all the things that we have to do during the day, because the time goes so fast. Yeah. So as you launched doing the live videos, what did you discover as one of your hidden potentials that you didn't realize that you had when you started doing those live videos?
It was interesting. Like I took a storytelling classes earlier this spring, and I know I don't particularly enjoy talking about myself, and there's a little bit of an awkwardness. But there's one assignment that I had that just blew me away. I was actually talking about this man. I think this is like actually this would be a good topic to have in line with what we're talking about. So I happened to be scrolling on YouTube and I came across this odd like description. And I thought, I have to watch his TED Talk. So I get on the TED Talk. I'm listening to this man. He's Indian. He has a heavy, heavy, heavy accent. He's a little bit hard to listen to. But what made me stop me was first of all the subject. The second thing was that he was actually using a lot of self-deprecating humor. And he's like, my grammar is not okay. It's not good. And he just told story. Really funny. But essentially, this is how I got to understand the importance of speaking up and telling your story. Here's this man talking about a problem that women throughout, people in poor countries don't have: sanitary pads. They're expensive. And sometimes people have to make the decision whether to buy food or to buy sanitary towels. And actually, he started out by trying to solve a problem for his wife.
Yeah.
And then in the process, to make a long story short, he ends up finding a way to invent sanitary pads that really cost effective and also be able to provide employment. His story got so much play that even there was a documentary I believe it's 2018, the Academy. Actually, that documentary, it was titled Period, End of Sentence.
Yes.
Was actually won for the short documentary category. And now there are countries all throughout the world where actually that's being like the manufacturing of this man. If you're worried about his English, he dropped out of school at age 14 because I believe he lost his father. So he had to start working at a relatively young age for the family.
Yes.
So that's education was a problem. His grammar's not the greatest, but did that stop him? No. No, it didn't stop him. And when I saw this man, I'm like, what is my excuse for me not to get on and talk about it? And with him, like at the end of the story, and for me, it all came full circle. I'm thinking, this man spoke up. And through this man speaking up, I bring a problem that many of us may not be aware, like in a Western nation. Right. That's a problem for girls. Girls are dropping out of school when they miss the school days because of their period. They drop out of school, and that creates a problem. And because of telling his story, he started a revolution. So we really underestimate the power of our stories. And when I started talking about them, I'm like, oh my gosh, whatever that is I feel passionate about, I need to talk about, because you never know. The very things that are coming out of your mouth could be what will solve somebody's problem for a lifetime.
Because we have it in us and it's just laying dormant. And or if we don't tap into it, somebody's going to miss out on something great that we have inside of us. Yeah. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So when you first started doing live video, did you have a plan of your own or did you have a coach?
Well, I actually threw out. I've never been a person who always trying to kind of spend time figuring out, because I know I tend to be a overthinker. I get analytical. And if I'm not careful, I talk myself out of doing things that are bold, that are bold. So one of the things I knew that I learned, that one of the things, like I'd have to invest time and money, is that sometimes if you're going to say you're going to figure out some of these things for you, you're going to figure it out on your own. What you're doing is actually wasting time.
Yes.
Money is replaceable, but time is never. Once that day goes, you can never get it back. And so from that perspective, I realized, why not learn from somebody else's mistakes instead of me starting from ground zero? Let this person's going to be getting me to level 10 without having to go through that, because they're going to tell me what, teach me what they've learned, the mistakes they've made, and how to got there. So I definitely got a coach. And one thing that I found to be important with telling a coach, sometimes when we are trying to do things on our own and looking videos, you don't have a sense of how much is expectable, because we're watching other people in video. You might be watching somebody's chapter 100, and yours is chapter 1.
Right.
And then you're comparing yourself to other people. Whereas when you work with a coach, the coach meets you where you're at.
Yes.
And you have from where you are, and you build slowly over time.
Yes.
So that's what I found to be extremely beneficial.
Yeah. And they can steer you in the right direction, especially if it's some area that you don't know that much about, but might have an interest in it. And like you said, why waste all that time in trying to figure it out when somebody has already figured it out, and they can help you, be more successful at that thing that you want to be successful at as well. Yeah.
That's absolutely. So true. The other thing about that was the coach. Not all coaches are made equal. You have to do the work. So you have somebody, and it's sort of like as you start to be on the online space, so many people say they're coaches. Have they actually been successful? So there are a lot of questions to ask you, versus if you take the time to do your work and make sure you connect to that person, have similar values, their pace at which they work, like being cognizant of that and make sure it's a good match between you and the coach. Yeah. That helps tremendously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. So what was the determining factor that made you know that you needed a coach? And I think we kind of talked about that, is the fact that you were wasting a whole lot of time, because that's what happens when we try to figure it out. And we spent days and days and haven't come up with nothing, when if we had someone that had the expertise, because they're out there, they have the expertise that can tell you A, B, C, D, or show you what it is that you need to do, where you won't waste that time. Because like when we talked about that time management, the time goes so fast, and if we don't utilize our time, then we've wasted all that time and don't have anything to show for it.
Exactly. The other thing, Val, I would say, is that Another thing is not just simply being coached. When you are being coached, you get the opportunity to interact with other people. And it's amazing. Sometimes you're just working one-on-one. It's amazing that a coach focuses on you. But when you work in a group coaching, you're like, oh, yeah, you listen to other people's questions. Sometimes, like for me, I'm in a shared community with Valarie, with Stream Bosses Academy. And one of the things that's amazing, there are people who are 10 steps ahead of me. They're asking questions about stuff I don't know that I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. And through the process, you watch people start with one place and you see people progressing through their, as business owners or as communicators. And just by watching that, that really helps you to develop belief that you can actually do it yourself.
Do it. Absolutely.
So
Because
that's really
you're not in it alone. There are other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Irene, talk to us about the STEM program and what that's all about.
So in the process of being on the online space, one of the things that's really beautiful about that, I've gone to interact with a lot of different people, and I dabbled with different types of businesses. And I circled back. Like sometimes you in this, to me, it was I really wanted to be successful so badly that sometimes I kind of really got could not distinguish the forest from the trees. But when I was able to take time to kind of step back and look at the experiences that I had, it all boiled to one thing. I love to work with women. I've always loved to work with women. I'm just, everywhere, like teenagers. And there's something.
Me too. Me
So
too.
amazing.
I do too.
I just really, really loved it. And so I started to think about, like, I knew I needed a coach. I felt so nervous. And then I realized, after like having some coaching again, I got to realize the best thing that you can teach somebody about is something you've gone through, a difficult situation, and you figured how to do it and you've mastered it. And I thought, why not? Right. And so as I was thinking about it, think about the rigor of a PhD program. It's so rigorous. And if you're not careful, because there's so much competition and you never really feel good enough, especially in the STEM field where there's a right and wrong answer, you can end up getting your PhD and walking out of there feeling not good enough, not feeling as though you've truly got your dream, feeling like a fraud. A lot of people, really highly successful women especially, will experience this. And so that's why I decided I want to focus on help women, find businesses. And sometimes when we get our PhD, so much money and time is spent on getting our degrees.
Yes.
And we can really be reluctant to pivot and go in a totally different field because of the time and energy you spend one way. And our ability to release from what we did in the past and let that go and start a new chapter, it takes a lot to be able to do that. So my goal is to help women be able to pivot from what they were doing. Is this serving well? Are you celebrated? Or do you need to create something of your own where you be the person who's inspiring other people and people appreciate what you have to offer?
And look, your own CEO.
Exactly.
Your own, you're your own boss.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So that's great. That's because that is a good thing to think about, is that you can be your own boss with that, and you're in charge to be able to help the next person and to be able to steer them in the right direction. And so that is very powerful right there.
And the other thing, Val, is that's so important in that process is that you get to choose who you want to work with. When you're working for somebody else, like, you're having to have people dictate your life. And many of the times you're working for somebody else, your life revolves around your work. Well, if you're working for yourself, if you're doing a good job and you've kind of gotten systems in your business, you actually want to dictate whether you're going to take vacation for a month, a week, you do whatever. And it's like that freedom to be able to do that. Yeah. It's something I can't say once you start to have around a successful business. It's not something you trade.
You're right. Absolutely. Because that can be a very good feeling, a very fulfilling feeling, to be able to do that. Yes, definitely. So what has been a takeaway that has impacted your mindset with doing video? Because I've been seeing you on TikTok. I said, look at Irene up on TikTok. What made you want to do that?
I think for me, it was like, I knew that live video, I've obviously started to see the face-to-face coaching. The world is going online. A lot of business models have just collapsed, we'll say Airbnb. There's a whole lot of things, a lot of disruption in industries. And I recognize that. And it was scary. But one of the things I know that this has afforded me the opportunity is to learn through mistakes. When you're studying, when you're getting your PhD, the focus is always to get the right answer. This was the hardest thing for me to learn, like in business, think as a business person. If you don't make mistakes, you actually don't grow. Whereas like in an academic STEM environment, you get the right answer and that's you grow. So it's like such a different way to think. If I want to succeed, I'll use the words of John C. Maxwell, failing forward.
Yes.
That's the way to success. And once I started to embrace that and started to think, instead of having a fixed mindset and having a growth mindset, where I was saying the only way to build confidence, not by reading about confidence, is to do it. And then by repetition, you get better and better. So,
and it's good you said that about that the fixed and the growth mindset, because a lot of people get stuck right there with that fixed mindset and feel like, okay, this has been working for 100 years, so I don't need to change it. But there are so many different ways to grow your mindset so that you can see that there are other ways to get things done, and it's more profitable and it comes out better. So, that is something that, I really like to encourage people when you're talking about a growth mindset, that we as a people, we should always want to be lifelong learners, because it's always something to learn.
Yeah. The other last thing, when I'm thinking of one thing, there's also thing in this process, you have to be humble. Yes. You actually have to be humble. You may know this, but the moment you're learning something new, you're starting at ground zero. But just be willing to be humble and to be coachable. Yeah. If somebody teaches you, try that out, and do not change coaches, at least. But if you're moving from one thing to another, we have to give time for you to actually show success. Right. So that's been like humbling to have to be, I don't know, and be okay with it. And if it means I have to learn, like literally what's happened now, my sons teach me. There were times like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to get on this. I don't know how to text. I don't know how to connect this. Like, it's really made it a level playing field. Your 16-year-old grandchild or your son or daughter will teach you stuff that you don't know. So it's been a blessing that way to also know we're helping. We are the older generation. We're learning for the new ones because they are basically what's the digital nomads. Right. So it's been a blessing all through and through. So it's an interesting experience.
It has. And so the thing of it is, like with organization, how has all of this affected your organizational skills as well as far as that? It's the time management along with organizing everything that you have to do during the day.
You know what? It's constantly, I have to say it's a challenge. One of the things I actually learned I used to have these long list of things I wanted to do. And there's actually a book I read recently. It's called One Thing. And one thing I realized, and actually had a quote, I don't have the quote handy, but sometimes when you have that list, it's like every time you finish the list, there's something else that comes on. So I'm challenging myself every day to focus on 3 things for each day. Those things have to be done before I go to bed. And if anything else gets done or that, it doesn't matter. But I'm noticing now when I'm like when I focus on one thing, I don't feel as though time is my enemy. But when I focus on a million things, I'm always feeling as though I'm racing against time. And that's kind of a losing battle, because time is, it's like, it rules our world.
It does. It does. It does. And the thing of it is, why people like to look at video and listen to audio, is because they can do it while they're driving. They can do it while they're cooking. These are things that they don't have to sit down and do, so it helps with the organizational skills of all the other things that we have to do, because video and audio is really the thing now, really. So if you're tied up and not want to get involved with that, that's one thing, but that is how this world is evolving.
That is so true, because I can tell you, there's only a few times I actually don't have the radio. If I'm listening to Kayla, which is a Christian channel, listen to Christian music. Other than that, I always have an Audible. I have so many books from Amazon Audible. I have one book after another. So even when at a doctor's office, I have a Kindle. Always have a book. I have an audio, and I have my earbuds with me. So that anything that seems like downtime, I can do something meaningful. So that's helped tremendously to be able to do that. but I'm still like trying to make sure if I'm doing something important, just focus on one thing at a time and do everything, batch everything, you
Yeah,
know?
because the thing of it is, the thing that I always say to people is, even though we have a to-do list, it doesn't mean we're going to get all of that done in one day.
Mm-hmm.
So the organization comes in, what's the most important thing? Even
Mm-hmm.
and you want to work on the most important thing, and you want to do that well, because if you try to do multiple things, you're going to end up having a whole lot of stuff going on, and you're going to be to miss some stuff, going to have to go back and redo it. So the organization, along with that time management, that is just so important for us doing the things that we do right now. So, it just stay in the back of my mind that I cannot have a list this long and think that I'm gonna get it all done in a day, because that's not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. So, if I may say, just one thing that you were speaking that came to mind was the notion of thinking about how we make decisions about what you're going to do. Not like now I'm actually learning to think this way, where I think about what do I want, where do I want my life to go, and try to make decisions about things that are important through that lens. How does that further that mission?
Yes.
And that makes the process of making decisions. Think about every committee. You're right, like Valarie spoke earlier about having trouble saying no.
Yes.
And I listened to an interview with Sherry Shepherd.
Yes.
She has her own show, and there's one thing she said, she stopped me in my tracks. That was a word. She talks about how no is the strongest word, because you say no.
Because it's a complete sentence. No.
It's a complete sentence. It's a complete sentence. Once you say no, it's powerful. Once you say no, you can say a yes, but once you say yes, it's so hard to go and say, no, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
I thought that is so powerful to say no and just look at it in the perspective. Like, what is it? How is like my life related? How does it further my objective for the day or whatever? And not just saying yes to everything. That's so powerful. It's a complete sentence, right?
It is. It is. So what advice would you give someone who's searching to find their real passion and their hidden potential? What is one thing that you would give advice to that person?
One thing actually that I've done in the past is volunteer work. You'd be surprised of how much you get from being a volunteer.
Yeah.
Just volunteering. Especially if you think about nonprofit exist, find something that you really enjoy, you're good at, and give that time away. And sometimes that could be a great way to know. Another thing I also knew that's also helpful. There's somebody who you kind of look at and you look up to. Maybe that you feel like that person is like where you want to be some years or a decade later. Why not maybe shadow that person? Maybe help that person a part of their project. In the process, you can see this is something I want to do, because the way we find our passion is not by sitting around to have like this light, have an epiphany. It's by doing. God reveals to us like what happens. When the process of doing that, you start to recognize a pattern. Even sometimes going as far back as looking at your childhood dreams.
Yes.
That can also be very telling. So the biggest thing is taking action. Whatever that thing's, doing it, you're going to find what you're supposed to do, your life's mission. And once you do that, there could be a better thing. And once you do that, you start to find things that you don't feel as though you're striving. It just seems like things to go, like it's not easy.
No.
Those things go more smoothly. And you can pinch yourself, gosh, I can't believe I get paid to do this.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that you decided to come on the show. And guys, today, if you want to get in touch with Irene, her link tree is on the screen, and you can get that off. And I'll also put it in the chat so that you all can have that if you would like to further talk to her. And Irene, she'll be in the back for a few minutes because we'll continue talking after this is over. But guys, and Irene, I just thank you so much for coming out and being with me for a few minutes today. And I'll put you in the back room, but I'll be back there in a few minutes to finish our talk. Okay.
Thank you, Valarie. It was a pleasure.
Yes. So guys, that was Irene, and she came in to give you some of her expertise and talk to you about the live video and how you have to go out there and get some help when you need help doing some of these things, and get a coach to help you figure out some things so you won't overdo yourself. So this is all I have for Talk Time Val today. I don't try to keep you all out there a long time. And guys, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you want to reach out for a meet and greet, you can go to my website, www.talktimeval.com. And you can also go to my Instagram. You can go to my LinkedIn. And if you want further consultation or whatever, you know what to do. Go to my website and we can get together. And if you need some help with certain areas that you might be working in, feel free to go out there and get in contact with me. And that's all that Talk Time Val have for you today. And Talk Time Val is, guess what? Signing out. And I will be talking to you a little bit later.